So, guys, did you hear the news about Tim? I'm going to go to you first about Tom Homan saying that they're going to pull out of Minnesota. What do you think?
Did hear the news. I don't like hearing Tom Homan and pull out in the same sentence. I haven't seen you though, Don, as a free man yet. So I just wanted to say I'm happy to see you walking the streets, unshackled, unchained.
Thank you.
Speaking your truth.
Thank you for supporting and thank you for coming in. I heard that you made 2 appearances on that day and you were very supportive.
Oh, hell yeah, baby.
So,
and one of the things I said, I think it relates to this, is that, it sucks for you. You have to go through this, but you're going to come out of that stronger. And these guys' tactics just aren't working right now. I mean, they're causing a lot of pain and a lot of suffering. And so I don't mean to minimize that, but in the kind of sweep of where we're going here, the people of Minnesota were out in the streets and they essentially protected their own city from these masked goons that came in, and they were forced to, send Greg Bovino back to California because of the backlash, and Tom Homan came, and now he's leaving because they with no concessions. I mean, they're claiming that they've gotten some. They haven't offered any specifics on. They said, well, the police are cooperating with us more now. No details. There's no evidence that the police chief O'Hara has changed his policies in any way. What they realized is that this was a political loser. The people of Minneapolis' voices really mattered. And I felt the same way about their, attempt to go after you. I was like, just Don Lemon's going to come out of this stronger. And I feel the same way, by the way, about their bluster about these guys standing outside of voting booths. I was like, more people are going to turn out to vote if they try to put mass thugs outside of voting locations. So I think like in a kind of short term perspective, their policies are failing. Obviously, that is not much comfort for like people who are being detained or harassed by these thugs. But there's something to be said for that on the political side of it.
Well, Tim, thank you for that. And look, you said attempt to go after it tomorrow, first court date. So stand by to go to bed early because we may need you tomorrow. We'll see what happens. Thank you, Jen. These awful pictures. You and I have discussed this personally. At the City Winery when we appeared together in our show together at City Winery, and on this on the streaming show here, your show and mine, just these images of people, and it's for us, it's images, right? These are real lives that are being affected. Women being dragged across the ice and pulled out of cars, and children being frightened and glass shattering in their faces. It's awful.
It's terrible. And I think about a lot, Renee Good, she had a black lab in the back of her car. And I think about that moment where you're just living your life and you have your dog in the back seat. And what she said to these ICE agents is, hey, dude, I'm not mad at you. And then she gets her face blown off. Yeah. And then he calls her a fucking bitch just for spite. And so ICE can pull out of Minneapolis and Minnesota, but what was this all about? We have Americans dead. You have the administration talking about purchasing warehouses to store people, AKA concentration camps. And I just think that we have to keep applying pressure. I echo everything that Tim said about the resistance on the ground and how important that is. And I just think that this Gestapo, is what I call it, needs to be completely abolished. I think it's FUBAR. I think that the lives that were lost there and the trauma that will be generational trauma because people are hiding in Minneapolis, not going to school, not going to work. This is real trauma at the hands of our federal government for nothing, all based on some right-wing scam about Somali daycares.
Mm-hmm. What's this all about? What you said, Jen, that's a great way of putting it, because folks are wondering the same thing about what happened yesterday and Pam Bondi. And I'm sure you guys got Tim, you're probably tired of talking about it because that's all everybody's been talking about. So let's talk about some of it without, we'll show a little bit. Let's show this is Becca Ballant yesterday, not the one from her speaking this morning, Andy, but yesterday, just a little bit of what went on between her and Pam Bondi.
I want the record to reflect that, with this anti-Semitic culture right now, she voted against a resolution condemning.
Oh,
is
Jewish. I just want to be clear. Do you want to go there, Attorney General? Or do you want to go there? Are
Time
you
belongs to the
serious?
gentleman
Talking
from
about
South
anti-Semitism
Carolina.
to a woman who
Lady
lost her grandfather in the
I reclaim
Holocaust?
my time. I reclaim my time.
Really?
Okay. Yesterday. But Tim, this is what I want you to respond to. This is her talking about them, I guess, surveilling them as they went into the skiff to look at this material. Here it is. Yeah.
She knew that I had looked at records from Howard Lutnick, who is the Commerce Secretary, and that was my line of questioning, to ask her, has the DOJ interviewed these high-ranking members of the Trump administration about their ties to Epstein? She knew that because they were spying on us. They were surveilling us at the DOJ terminals, the computer terminals, and had printouts for what files we had looked at. And Howard Lutnick is of Jewish descent. And so this is one of the most chilling aspects of what happened yesterday. So not only did she have insults prepared for all of us and not answering the question, and survivors were in the room. They were desperate to get some answers and to be acknowledged. And what she was concerned about was bringing up, based on the dirt, including how we were surveilled at DOJ, to try to discredit us. And the survivors left once again feeling like their government had let them down. And it's heartbreaking.
So let's, you get it here.
Yeah.
What I mean, wow. Surveilling? This is authoritarianism.
It is. It's Keystone authoritarianism, though. Because anybody, they're stepping on rakes.
Timu authoritarianism.
Yeah, Timu authoritarianism. They're stepping on rakes, particularly in the Justice Department. Obviously they've had too much success dismantling the government with Russ Vought and Stephen Miller's immigration regime, but the DOJ has been Pam Bondi has been a disaster. It was their base that was really driving interest in the Epstein story initially. You just have to almost give them credit for that. You hate to hand it to them, but when she got in there, she was one that created those big binders and said, I've got the names of the co-conspirators on my desk and we're gonna go after them. And now she's over there shouting about the stock market, making absurd anti-Semitism accusations. They are redacting the names of co-conspirators and showing the names of victims. It has been a disaster class across the board. That she has nothing to show for it. She has nothing to show for it on their campaign of revenge and retribution that Donald Trump wants her to execute. Jim Comey walks free. Tish James walks free. Ramesa Osturk is free. You're free. They don't have any prosecutors to prosecute these cases. They've got, they're getting parking lot attorneys to try to, go after people. The entire AUSA district attorney office in Minneapolis has quit, basically. So, they're doing a lot of pernicious things. It is chilling that they're spying on members of Congress, but I don't think she did herself a damn bit of help yesterday with that performance. I don't know who it was for.
Come on.
Well, it's for Trump himself.
Yeah.
But I meant to say, you're right, Don. I don't know who it's for in the electorate.
Yeah.
I don't know who watched that and was like, I'm compelled by this, besides people that are already in the cult. I think that the people out there who are watchers of Joe Rogan or whatever, who really care about the Epstein story and have been following it for 10 years, I think look at that performance and they're like, you're a clown. And there were conservative media commentators yesterday saying Pam Bondi should quit.
Jen, she did not come off as the sharpest knife in the drawer yesterday.
No, it was so performative. It was so cringeworthy. But I think that a part of Trump's plan and Project 2025's plan is to take DOJ and turn it upside down. My husband, Josh, Don, he's a criminal defense attorney. And typically DOJ and prosecutors, things are buttoned up. They're really, really buttoned up. They recently went to get 6 indictments for lawmakers. And the grand jury, regular everyday citizens, are now putting up resistance to the incompetence of this DOJ. And they couldn't get these 6 indictments. And so you see resistance and bravery now all throughout the electorate. And when we feel helpless and hopeless, and you see this, and I know this is a really, lowbrow word, but it just always comes to my mind when I see Pam Bondi. When you see this twat that's the attorney general behaving the way she is, and it makes you feel upside down, you have to remember the resistance from everyday Americans in a grand jury to say, no, you are not going to charge our lawmakers. And Dawn, I think you're going to see it when your case goes up. You're going to see the incompetence of this DOJ and your legal team completely dismantle them the way Letitia James did, the way James Comey did. And so it's painful to watch this incompetence, and we're all exhausted from it. But we have to remember a part of this is their desired effect, so that we descend in denialism and we don't keep fighting the good fight.
It's interesting. When I hear twat, I think J.D. Vance is the person that comes to mind. No, but, to each their own, I guess.
It's a touche. I mean, we're splitting hairs, Tim.
I don't think anybody's ever used that word. I don't think I've heard that word since I've in my 30.
Is this elimination first?
This is a elimination. I think in my entire broadcast history, I've never heard someone say that word. So congratulations. I appreciate it. Jen, this one is, Tim, this is another one for you. This is Becca Ballant again, talking about going into the skiff. And I thought these were very important details. Here it is.
And in fact, we had minders in the room, and they kept changing the rules. Like, you can't, they told us we couldn't bring in any printed materials from the files to compare to the files on the screen, which is,
redactions are hard to keep track of.
Yeah, absolutely. Then they told me I couldn't take notes on my printed material. Then they told me I couldn't bring in sticky notes. It just kept changing. And then you got minders in the room making sure you're not using phones, but they had already confiscated our phones, so there was no way we were going to be using phones. And it just goes right to the heart of what we've been saying about this administration all year. They are acting as an authoritarian regime. It is textbook fascism what they are doing.
Okay, so we had a word that Jen used, and now we have that word. Becca Ballant, who's not usually hyperbolic, and I don't think she's particularly far left, she's saying this is fascism.
Yeah, and this came to attention, I think, yesterday, at least to my vantage point, based on a Getty photographer, which is some importance of journalism, who caught a photo of Bondi looking through her binder or whatever, her notes in front of her, and it listed all the things that Prameya Jayapal had been searching for when she was reviewing the files. And yeah, there's a photo, and that's crazy. Like the executive branch spying on the legislative branch. It's also against the law. It's just straight against the law. Look, they passed this with one vote dissenting. I think a congressman from down here in Louisiana, appropriately. The whole, everyone in Congress in both parties passed this law so we could see these files, and they're not following the law. And I thought Massey was really good on that yesterday, a Republican from Kentucky. But she's right to be sounding the alarm on this, Ballant. And you're right that she's not. This is not, a fire or bomb thrower or a member of the squad or whatever. And she's like a very middle of the road congresswoman. And if she's that alarmed, I think that's telling.
Well, it's also look, it's frightening. If they are going to do that, when people say they're going to do that to Don Lemon, imagine what they would do to me. If they're going to do that to lawmakers, imagine what they're doing to everyday citizens. If they're going to surveil lawmakers, if they're going to change the rules about what they can and cannot do. I mean, it's no different than Pete Hegseth over, at the Pentagon saying, we have to have some approval of what you put out. I mean, I think she's right to use that word fascism, Jen.
I think so too. And I think the key word here is surveillance. And you hear, if you really start digging into the donors and the oligarchs of this regime, Peter Thiel, Palantir, surveillance. You've heard reports of women that were just, what do they call them? Legal observers in Minneapolis. And then a ICE agent takes a picture of them. And then they go to fly the next couple of days and their TSA is removed because they were legal observers. So this surveillance state, which, let's be real here, Donald Trump is kind of intellectually lazy, but there are some evil, smart people back behind him that have this technology that taxpayers are funding, which Congress is seeking more funding for. And this phrase, surveillance state, keeps popping up over and over and over again. And so to Tim's point about the journalist that took a photograph of that, and we know that they're surveilling Congress, hopefully this will help Congress people vote against funding for this type of software and for taxpayers to pay for a taxpayer-funded surveillance state.
Oh, well, what's next, Tim? I think they're voting on whether to keep the Department of Homeland Security funded. Where are we at? You're over at the Bulwark. You guys, this is all you do. Where are we right now?
Yeah, I'll answer that. I just want to add one thing on Jen's point, because I think it's really important going after the surveillance state, just from like a political perspective. When I was coming up, back when I was a Republican, I hate to remind people about that, but just is what it is. The Democrats, Obama gained a lot of, I think, political credibility with like the libertarian set, the Rogan set, a lot of these like the podcast bros, because he was going after the Bush surveillance state, and I think had a lot of legitimate critiques of it, and I think that the Democrats at that time were positioned as being the party that was like anti this, this establishment, anti this kind of big government, boot on your neck type of politics. And I do think the Democrats lost that a little bit in the last kind of period, in the Clinton, Biden, Kamala Harris era. And I do think that is, I'm glad that Jen brought that up, because I think that's a big issue that could kind of unite basically progressives and people that voted for Kamala Harris, but also a lot of folks that were those Obama Trump voters, a lot of folks that don't have a lot of trust in the government and saw Trump as an outsider going after the establishment. Now Trump is the establishment. He's the one working with Peter Thiel to spy on you. And I do think that's it's both correct policy to go after that, but I think also good politics for Democrats. And I think it'd help, expand the coalition a little bit. On the DHS funding bill, it'll be interesting to see how it goes. This is not what you're supposed to do as a pundit, but I'm kind of two minds about it. Like, on the one hand, I think getting some meaningful concessions is important. Like, people are being brutalized in the streets by masked agents, and if the Democrats can get them to make concessions, make them take off their masks, do other things that changes their policies, and it's enforceable, and there's evidence they'll actually do it. That's an approach that I think is worth considering. On the other hand, I do think it's hard to say. It's hard to vote for any deal that provides any funding for these guys, given their behavior, and I think that is going to be the crux of the debate over the next week or two, as Democrats try to figure out, can they get enough meaningful concessions to like make things better for people who are being harassed and worse by ICE and CBP, or they hold the line on maybe a partial shutdown to make sure that because you just can't bring yourself to vote for any funding at all on this. I think it's gonna be a tough question.
Tim, do you even lift?
Do I even lift? Like I said, I do the 5-pound weights. Okay, we're doing the lateral tries. It's usually like 6 o'clock class. It's kind of like it's a what do they call it? A HIIT class, HIIT.
Yeah,
it's me and a bunch of probably iHeart
workout
listeners. It's me and a lot of Jen. It's just like me and a bunch of wine moms. It's great.
Jen, you run into Tim at the gym, don't you? I mean, Jen is a workouter.
Yeah, I'm a workouter. I would run circles around Tim at the gym. I would shine.
No, not this Tim. I mean, my Tim. I think you guys.
Oh, your Tim. I think I could take him on too. I really like my exercise.
That's a tougher competition. I'd like to watch that while I sit on the sidelines.
The other Tim is pretty fit, I have to say. That would be tough.
There are 2 Tims in my life, one in New Orleans and one here. Thank you. And Tim Miller's in New Orleans. Thank you, Tim. Appreciate it. Thank you, Jen Welch. We'll see you soon. I've had a podcast and over at the Bulwark for Tim Miller. Thanks, guys. Bye, see you soon. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss a show. We're live every weekday at 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern Time, with new clips dropping at 2 p. and 8 p. And if you want even more Don Lemon Show content, join the Lemon community. Members get exclusive posts, behind-the-scenes videos, and live chats just for you. So hit the join button or visit our channel page to sign up. Thanks again for all your love and your support, and I'll see you next time.